Crash. That's not thunder. That's you. Arriving. No warning. No soft hello. Just the raw presence of someone who rebuilt themselves in the shadows. You didn't disappear. You descended into the trenches, into the ache, into every unspoken watch me that they tried to silence. And now, you rise like fire that forgot it was ever tame. They look confused? That's because you walk like the prophecy they laughed at, like the storm they never saw coming. They don't recognize you because you outgrew their imagination. You broke their story. You rewrote your name in bold, bleeding letters. You don't walk back in, you erupt. You don't wait for space, you take it. And every second you breathe now, it echoes like vengeance wrapped in peace. Because this is your resurrection. Not soft, not sweet, but loud, legendary, and long overdue. You never screamed. You never begged. You never had to explain yourself to the ones who doubted you, mocked you, or wrote you off, like you were just another lost voice in the crowd. No. You stayed silent. And in that silence, you spoke louder than any scream ever could. That silence. It wasn't weakness. It wasn't retreat. It was your power loading in the shadows. It was your transformation taking form behind closed doors. While they laughed, while they pointed fingers, while they whispered behind your back, thinking you'd fallen off for good. But what they didn't see was the war you were winning in private. The battles no one applauded. The growth no one documented. The lessons that came with blood and bone. Because silence, it became your language. A language only the brave understand. You see, they expected noise. They expected you to announce your comeback, to prove your worth, to fight for attention. But you knew better. You didn't need to prove anything. You knew who you were becoming. And you understood this golden truth. The loudest one in the room is usually the weakest. You chose restraint over reaction, vision over validation. You disappeared not because you lost, but because you were preparing to return like a storm. And now the silence is deafening to them, because they feel your energy shift. They see the way you move now, unbothered, unshaken, untouchable. You became the mystery they can't solve, the comeback they can't predict, the force they can't stop. You built a kingdom in your quiet, and now every brick in that empire carries the weight of discipline, focus, and relentless patience. You turned your silence into a weapon. Every minute they thought you were gone, you were sharpening it. Every moment they underestimated you, you were getting stronger. And now they're scared, not because you yelled, but because you never had to. You're walking proof that silence isn't the absence of power. It's the accumulation of it. You didn't clap back. You outgrew. You didn't argue. You leveled up. And now every success you touch screams in their face. Every step you take forward echoes back to their doubts, like thunder. This isn't just silence. This is your revenge work. So let them talk, let them wonder, let them drown in the silence you mastered. Because in that silence you created a legend. They'll never see you the same again. They didn't fear your weakness. No, that was never the threat. Your weakness was convenient. Your tears were silent. Your kindness, that was easy to control. They looked at you and took you. Your quietest nights broken and curled up inside the same four walls, and they smirked. They thought they won. Because what's more satisfying than watching someone with fire in their bones forget how to burn? But what they didn't realize was that even when you were on the floor, you weren't done. Even when you were silent, you were storing something: anger, vision, power. And now that silence, it's not weakness, it's warning. The version of you they mocked, manipulated, gaslit, and dismissed has cracked open, and what's coming out of that crack isn't soft. It's scorching. It's dangerous. Because what they feared most wasn't your sadness, it was your clarity. That crisp moment when you finally see it. When the fog lifts and suddenly you're not begging anymore, not apologizing, not explaining your worth in rooms full of cowards. You're not trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. You're not sitting there swallowing your dreams just to make others feel comfortable in their small cages. You're not that fragile anymore. You're not breakable. You're not even recognizable. They thought they were safe from work at you because you were soft. But your softness wasn't safety, it was the calm before the riot. And now you are riot. You are storm. The kind of storm that walks in smiling and leaves with Theo and the walls torn off. You learned how to bleed without making a sound. And now that soundlessness is over. You speak with your presence now. Your eyes, different. They burn, they pierce. They remind people of everything they tried to bury. And your voice, it doesn't tremble anymore. It cuts. Because you know who you are. And when someone knows who they are, no fake praise, no fake love, no fake fear can control them. That's what scares them. You didn't come back asking for closure. Sure, you came back as closure. You didn't return looking for acceptance. You returned as the version of yourself that accepts nothing less than power. This is the version that kicks the door off its hinges instead of knocking. This is the version that doesn't wait for permission because you finally get it. That storm wasn't punishment, it was preparation. That heartbreak wasn't the end, it was initiation. And now the world better learn something real quick. You're not the echo anymore. You're the voice. You're not the victim anymore. You're the one writing the script. And guess what? This time there's no off switch. Oh, so now they look confused, huh? Now they act like they don't recognize you. Like the same person they once ignored is suddenly too loud, too big, too different. Nah, don't let that fool you. That confusion on their face, that's fear dressed up in denial. Because deep down they knew you were always going to outgrow their small talk, their small minds, their small expectations. They just didn't expect it to happen without them. See, people get real quiet when the one they doubted starts becoming the one everyone else watches. And your glow up, It wasn't just pretty, it was violent. It was the kind that tore through old versions of you, smashed past their comfort zones and left behind dust where limits used to live. There was no applause when you were crying on floors, battling voices that whispered quit and stitching your worth back together in the... There were no cheers when your hands were trembling, but still typing, still building, still moving forward, inch by bloody inch. They didn't see the storm you crawled through. They just see the shine now and pretend it's always been there. But you know the truth, don't you? That shine. It's battle armor. Polished with pain, forged in rejection, and now you walk different. Laugh different. Speak with a rhythm that rattles rooms. Not because you're cocky, but because you're free. You stopped living for someday and started living like now was the only time that mattered. You burned bridges that led nowhere, danced on ashes of dead friendships, and grew wings where chains used to be. And now they look. Let 'em squint in disbelief. Let 'em choke on the silence they gave you. Because this is your show now. This is your era. And no one, not the ghosters, not the haters, not the doubters, gets to narrate your victory. You are the moment, the echo, the earthquake, the clap they never gave you. You turned it into thunder. Real ones don't beg to be seen. They become the reason eyes can't look away. And now that silence, it's not weakness, it's warning. The version of you they mocked, manipulated, gaslit, and dismissed has cracked open, and what's coming out of that crack isn't soft. It's scorching. It's dangerous. Because what they feared most wasn't your sadness, it was your clarity. That crisp moment when you finally see it. When the fog lifts and suddenly you're not begging anymore, not apologizing, not explaining your worth in rooms full of cowards. You're not trying to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. You're not sitting there swallowing your dreams just to make others feel comfortable in their small cages. You're not that fragile anymore. You're not breakable. You're not even recognizable. Ha ha ha. They thought they were safe from you because you were soft. But your softness wasn't safety. It was the calm before the riot. And now you are riot, you are storm, the kind of storm that walks in smiling and leaves with the walls torn off. You learned how to bleed without making a sound. And now that soundlessness is over. You speak with your presence now. Your eyes, different. They burn, they pierce, they remind people of everything they tried to bury. And your voice, it doesn't tremble anymore. It cuts, because you know who you are. And when someone knows who they are, no fake praise, no fake love, no fake fear can control them. That's what scares them. You didn't come back asking for closure. You came back as closure. You didn't return looking for accept. You returned as the version of yourself that accepts nothing less than power. This is the version that kicks the door off its hinges instead of knocking. This is the version that doesn't wait for permission, because you won't finally get it. That storm wasn't punishment, it was preparation. That heartbreak wasn't the end, it was initiation. And now the world better learn something real quick. You're not the echo anymore. You're the voice. You're not the victim anymore. You're the one writing the script. And guess what? This time there's no off switch. They thought you were quiet because you were scared. Huh? How funny. They mistook your silence for surrender, your calm for cowardice, your stillness for softness. They stared at your closed mouth and assumed you had nothing worth saying. But oh, what a miscalculation. What a beautiful misunderstanding. Because what they failed to realize is that storms don't make noise until they strike. While they were out there making noise, chasing claps, putting on performances for the world, you were becoming something dangerous in the dark. Behind that silence was strategy. Behind that quiet was a fire being fed breath by breath, moment by moment, fueled by the doubt they kept throwing at you like it was water. But it only made the flames taller. The silence, it wasn't retreat, it was rebirth. It wasn't fear, it was focus. You weren't lost, you were locked in. You weren't invisible, you were becoming invincible. Because some people train in front of mirrors, but you trained in the shadows. You were building while they were bragging. You were rising while they were running their mouths. You didn't clap back, you clapped forward. And now that you're here, they don't even know how to breathe around your presence. Because the one they mocked walks like thunder. The one they dismissed moves like lightning. That's what silence does. It disorients the comfortable. It confuses the crowd. It creates beasts out of people who were once overlooked. You weren't inactive. You were collecting receipts. Not for revenge, but for revelation. For that moment when everything they thought they knew about you would collapse under the weight of what you've become. And now every step you take echoes louder than are their loudest words. Every breath you exhale carries weight, and they feel it even when you say nothing. Especially when you say nothing, because now your silence doesn't whisper. It screams. It screams with results, with purpose, with presence. It's wild, isn't it? How the same silence they once laughed at has become the thing that keeps them up at night. Because you're not hiding anymore, you're haunting them with your excellence. You're not proving anything, you are the proof. And that silence, that beautiful, powerful silence, it was never a weakness. It was a cocoon, a launch pad, a forge. And now you're here, not louder, but deeper, not trying to be seen, impossible to ignore. Hear us. That's what it means to move in silence. That's what it means to return, without a word but with a presence so loud it shakes the ground. So let them wonder, let them whisper, let them panic. You don't need to speak. Your work is speaking. Your energy is screaming. You're silent. It didn't protect your fear. It protected your purpose. And now the world doesn't even know how to react. Because the storm came quiet, and it left nothing untouched. They thought the silence meant surrender. That your quiet walk away was an exit. That you disappeared into the shadows to cry, to break, to crumble. Nate. Let them believe that. Because silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's the pause before the storm, the inhale before the scream, the setup before the knockout. While they danced in circles, shouting for attention, you went underground. You vanished like a ghost. And while no one was watching, you built an empire in the dark. You studied, you plotted, you trained with your demons. You learned how to move like smoke and hit like thunder. You didn't need an audience, you needed a mirror. Because this transformation wasn't for them. It was for you. Quietly, dangerously, you became someone they never saw coming. And now they whisper. Now they flinch when your name comes up. Because they feel it. the shift, the energy, the power you carry now. You've got that grin, the one that says, try me. You've got that look in your eyes. You got that look in your eyes. Calm, but explosive. Because while they wasted time, you were preparing for war. You see the ones who become legends. They're not born that way. They're built in silence. They're carved out of pressure, chaos, and isolation. And silence, oh silence, isn't the absence of noise. It's the presence of control. You learned that. You mastered it. You stopped explaining yourself. You stopped chasing validation. You stopped begging people to see your worth. Because you finally realized lions don't need to roar to prove who they are. And that laugh, that twisted little smirk when you walk through fire like it's nothing, that's not insanity. That's confidence. That's earned arrogance. Because you've been to the edge, looked down, and didn't flinch. You don't just survive anymore. You dominate. And now, when they hear you coming, they panic. Because you're not the same. You don't play the nice game. You don't shrink to fit in. You don't water yourself down to be digestible. You walk in with your scars on display. Your head high and your silence loud as hell. That's the Joker way. That's the warrior's way. You become so powerful in your presence that even without saying a word, they feel you, they fear you, they respect the energy that speaks louder than noise. That's the kind of power pain gave you. That's the kind of forced silence gifted you. And that's why now they watch, they whisper, they wonder what happened to him. They don't know, and they won't, because the new version of you doesn't need to explain. You just arrive, and the room shifts. So keep walking silent. Keep laughing when it burns. Keep watching from the shadows until the time is right. Because when you move now, it's not noise, it's an event. And when you speak, the world listens. They never heard you cry for help. Never saw you begging for mercy. Never saw you begging for mercy. Never saw you didn't plead. Never saw you didn't. You didn't plead. You didn't justify. You just vanished. Never saw you. Quiet, cold, controlled. And while they laughed behind screens and smirked in rooms where your name was dragged through the dirt, you were sculpting your rebirth in pure silence. We all that silence, it wasn't a pause. It wasn't weakness. It was your storm rehearsing. It was rage learning to walk in silence. It was power charging like lightning behind calm clouds. Every moment they thought you were broken, you were evolving. Every second they assumed you'd given up. And you were calculating, planning, breathing fire into your soul privately. Alone, like a monster crafting its own mythology in a locked room. They didn't see it. They couldn't feel it. But now that silence is louder than their noise ever was. Because they expected a dramatic return, right? Never see. A loud apology, a desperate, I'm still here. Never sighed. You gave them the most terrifying thing of all. Your absence. You didn't explain. You didn't defend. You didn't even blink. That right there scared them. Because silence, silence is not empty. It's echoing. It holds every unsaid truth like a loaded weapon. And you became fluent in it. You learned how to speak in stillness. You didn't need to scream your worth. They feel it now. In every move you make, that quiet confidence, that's deadly. Because you don't seek validation anymore. You are the validation. You are the storm after the silence. You are the blueprint they'll never figure out. And that eats them alive. They thought you disappeared, that you were done, game over. But what they didn't realize was you were just upgrading in the dark, building your comeback in layers they can't comprehend. You weren't inactive. You were intentional, focused, ruthless. While they sought applause, you trained in the shadow. While they mocked, you molded yourself into something unrecognizable. They wanted a fight. You gave them silence. And that silence, it's now echoing in their bones, shaking their assumptions, burning their old opinions of you to act. You didn't just grow. You transformed. You didn't clap back. You created distance. You didn't argue. You outperformed. And now every step you take is a headline they can't ignore. Every win is a mirror they hate looking into, because it reflects one ugly truth. They were wrong about you. So wrong. Your silence, that was your strategy. And now your success, that's the scream they can't silence. You didn't need to destroy them. You just needed to outlive their noise. And now you're doing that every damn day. So let them choke on the silence they mistook for surrender. Let them watch in confusion as you rise, without a sound, without a warning, without a care. Because that silence, that was your war cry in disguise. And now you are untouchable. And now look at you, not begging, not chasing, not explaining, just existing in full volume. You became the silence they can't ignore. The storm that walks with grace. The proof that pain doesn't just break, it builds. You didn't need revenge. You needed a mirror to see what they tried to dim. And once you saw it, you stopped shrinking. You stopped waiting for ready. You became the moment that changes everything. This world, it knows you now. Not by your wounds, but by your walk. Not by your past, but by the power in your presence. So let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them choke on the silence they gave you. Because every breath you take now is a roar in their quiet world. This isn't a comeback. This is a takeover. And your story, it's not just survival, it's the blueprint. And real ones like you don't just return, you reign.